Saudi investors have been on a wild ride the past few trading sessions as the unfolding drama surrounding the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi drove prices up and down. A slump in stocks was followed by an unexplained rebound. Meanwhile, the bond market appeared to be driven by an entirely different narrative. And to top it all off, a gauge of volatility is now at its highest level in almost 3 years. To help us get through some of these key themes, we're now joined by Arti Chandrasekaran. She's the banks and financial analyst at Shua Capital. Welcome back to the program. You look at the sell-off in Saudi stocks, some of the sectors that have been particularly hard hit, banks and consumer staples. Is the selling justified in as much as investors are preparing for a political paradigm shift, or is this selling overdone where it provides opportunity for you?
I think it's overdone. The reason even is a setback for the economy and market in general because it kind of challenges the FDI flows into the economy. But having said that, Saudi is too big an economy, too important an economy for the Middle East, for the rest of the world, and investors are not going to stay out of it for a long period of time. Yes, they are in a pause mode for now, but eventually they will step in when the dust settles, which is exactly what we are telling the investors. Pullback is healthy, especially when you have a definite catalyst in the making, which is index inclusion story. And banking side, the fundamentals is strong and resilient.
And you would maintain geopolitics overshadows the fundamentals, but that the flow of money will dominate in 2019. We looked at volatility. We have a chart. Volatility is back at the highest level for 3 years. One of the grievances is the lack of transparency, and a number of people have sort of said, look, we can barely get a set of results in English. This is Union Investments quoted in the story. Do you have that problem? Do you have that problem in terms of transparency?
I don't think so. I mean, I've been covering this region for more than 10 years. Saudi has gone up leaps and bounds in terms of transparency, in terms of the financial disclosure, in terms of getting to the management. At least from the banking perspective side, we have never faced problems in reaching out to people and trying to gauge sentiments on the ground. Not at all.
In terms of what you're bullish on in sort of a regional context, and we've put this together as well on a graphic, I mean, you're bullish on some of the, these are really classical plays in financials, right? I mean, aren't you getting a little bit bored of them? How much more upside can there really be with these?
It depends. If you're still looking at Saudi, you still have a very strong catalyst, which is index inclusion story. So you have a tremendous upside there. And banking side as well, fundamentals are strong. The acceleration in terms of margin for Q3 is there, and it will be there for the next 3 to 4 quarters. Asset quality is benign, and we're talking about earnings growth of 8 to 10%. So we're talking about at least 10 to 15 to 20% upside on Saudi stocks from here.
And you also talk about SAIBOR versus LIBOR, and obviously inherent is the net interest income story in terms of the shift from the Fed. But you talk about SAIBOR versus LIBOR, that it is popping higher, and you would maintain this is structurally different than what we saw in a squeeze back in 2015, 2016.
Correct. Unlike 2016, this is not a liquidity squeeze. This is clearly a race ahead of LIBOR. Will SAMA be concerned? Not at all, because as long as there's a positive spread and it's just 25 to 30 basis points, historically it's been around 50 to 55 basis points, so they would be clearly happy with it. The only downside risk is as SAIBOR gets to increase over the next 1 year, there will be a pressure on consumption, private sector spending, as well as non-oil GDP.
You're not taking on any exposure in Qatar. What about the United Arab Emirates?
We love stories as far as DFM is concerned, like DIB and ENBD. I think fundamentally and valuation-wise, they are very good and very strong and attractive.
Arti, before we let you off the set, in 20 seconds, oil much higher from here, squeeze higher for you, or are we at fair value?
A lot of pull and push factors, but we are still expecting it's going to be a volatile market, and it will edge from here as well.
Arti, thank you very much for the overview and some of the key calls. It's a big week for global earnings and for regional earnings. Some of the big Saudi corporates coming out with their numbers. Of course, from Shua Capital, Arti Chandrasekaran. Let's